All right, so this Bridging the Gap video, I wanted to utilize our current momentum that we have in our nation, this unity, this call to equality, especially towards African Americans. Utilize this opportunity to produce a video that speaks to our responsibility, speaks to that topic of equality and unity within our organization. And granted, this could be a topic that you can tie into any ethnicity, any gender equality, any sexual orientation equality, but speaking specifically right now, because this is the topic and I want to stay on topic of African American equality. And of course, what I say is my own opinion. You know, I don't represent any specific organization or unit when I speak my mind or speak my experience or try to provide these videos, this mentorship. But since George Floyd's death, there's been such a positive nature of peaceful protest, peaceful equality, and it made me think, and I apologize if I look down because I want to have my notes written out and I want to have actual sections and speak clearly. But first thing that I may think of as a African American officer in the military is, what's my responsibility? Because a lot of times we can think that our voice may not necessarily be something that should be put out there because, oh, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want it to be tied to the military and then I get in trouble. But, you know, that's not the case. We have the ability, of course, it's encouraged to speak your mind. To whatever you feel, speak it. As long as it is not divisive in nature, you can speak your mind and say what's on your heart. You can speak to your superiors. You can speak to your subordinates and give them advice and talk to them about what's happening. Because, I mean, elephant in the room, yes, I am a African American field grade officer in the military. So I know that when something like George Floyd's death happens, it's going to affect me differently than it may affect that my white peers, my white counterparts. It may affect them differently. It may not affect them at all, but it affects somebody like me because I share that with George Floyd. Yes, outside of uniform, that could be me. Outside of uniform, I'm not Major Brown. I am an African American male walking down the street. I'm an African American male that is driving in his car. So something like that could easily happen to me. Something like what happened to Ahmaud Arbery could easily happen to me. So what is my responsibility in that situation? What is my responsibility within my own sphere of influence? How can I affect that change, affect something that's positive, instead of just, oh, I'm not going to say anything again because I don't want to get in trouble? Because we shouldn't have that mentality. We shouldn't have that belief that we're going to get in trouble for speaking our mind, because that's not the case. Have those uncomfortable conversations. And here's exactly what we can do. And I decided to do this video because I've reached out to and I've heard from a lot of black officers, black soldiers, young soldiers that have asked, hey, you know, I'm feeling a certain type of way. You know, this really affects me. I'm tired of seeing an unarmed black man die at the hands of the police. I'm tired of seeing an unarmed black man die at the hands of, you know, non-police, just some citizens. You know, how can I maintain my professionalism? How can I go about doing my job when this affects me so much? And I've reached out to individuals and asked them, hey, how are you coping? How are you able to continue to do your job and not allow how you feel outside of uniform? You know, just, you know, you as a black male or a black female, how do you maintain that professionalism and continue to do your job? And so I want to share that because a part of this is all digital mentorship that I'm trying to do. And so whenever a topic like this, which hits near and dear to me because of the cultural significance and the cultural things that I share with George Floyd being an African American male, of course, you know, this is something that should be shared. So how can we affect it? What can we do? You know, as a black major, I can, first and foremost, I can mentor and reach out to those subordinates and talk to them and have those difficult conversations with them. How are you feeling? Be raw, be honest. Tell me exactly how this makes you feel. Here's how you should feel. Here's how you can get past maybe that anger. Here's how you can get past that disappointment and continue to do your job. Continue to have such great relationships with your peers and the people that you work with, knowing that those individuals have your back. Those individuals are not like, that cop. Those individuals are not like, that father and son. That those individuals have your best interest at heart. So don't lose sight and do anything that would be divisive. You can have those conversations with them and give them your own experiences, give them your own transparency on how to cope during times like this. You speak to your ranking officers, who are not of color. You can speak to them and let them know, hey, this is how George Floyd's death may be affecting the African American soldiers within your formation. At any point, if you're a commander, if you're a first sergeant, you are responsible for those soldiers. You're responsible for their well-being, and that includes their mental well-being. So we can't assume, or we can't just go in and believe that, hey, every soldier's just going to show up in uniform, they're going to do their job, nothing's going to faze them, hua, keep pushing. Something like this affects them differently, those African American soldiers. And you, being that African American officer or leader, can go to your ranking officers that are not of color and tell them and give them that advice. Here's how you can reach out to them. Here's a message that I would put out to them to let them know, that you understand what's happening, to let them know that you're about equality. Messages you can put out there, know that this is kind of what they're dealing with, and it's not just easy for them to continue to do their job. So you can have those conversations with your superiors, and you can talk to them about how to improve your organization if it needs improvement. If there are areas where equality can be improved, then you can give advice on exactly how we can improve that in our own organization, our own sphere of influence. You can talk with your peers. I would argue that everybody should have a set of peers that they go to and that they feel comfortable talking to at all times, and being raw and honest with them about what's going on. And not just race items, but anything. But specific to this topic, to stay on topic, anything that affects them during racial tension, affects them during the death of a unarmed African American. You can have a group that you can be raw and honest with and be transparent. So you always want to have that. And then, how else can I influence it? I can ensure that there's equality within my own sphere of influence. Have those difficult conversations. Talk to people. If I'm the only black person in a group amongst my sphere of influence, amongst my soldiers, it's okay for us to talk raw and speak on the topic. Too often we get nervous and we don't want to speak to it. We don't want to talk about it because we don't want people to feel uncomfortable, or for whatever reason we may feel uncomfortable, but it's okay. You can have that uncomfortable conversation, because uncomfortable conversations produce positivity. Uncomfortable conversations produce positive change. So completely fine to get out there and actually talk about it and be able to say exactly what's on your heart. Because if you can be honest with those people that you work with, that sphere of influence, then, like I said, you can produce that change. And there's absolutely no reason that you should feel that you have to swallow your words and you can't be completely upfront and honest. Again, as long as your stance and what you say is not divisive in nature, then why not say what's on your heart? So have that uncomfortable conversation. So just understand that during times like this, for those individuals that are in charge of formations, understand that this is a time right now that is positive, but is also a time right now that affects a certain population of your soldiers in a different way. It affects them just a little bit differently than it would affect just the rest of your formation. But again, it's a lot of positive things happening right now. Great protests, soldiers out there doing great things, supporting and doing their job. But at the end of the day, during times like these, we need to continue the momentum of equality, continue the momentum that is the military equality, because the military leads in all efforts. The military is the first and usually sets the standard for the rest of the nation when it comes to the policies and it comes to things like equality. Because at the end of the day, no one cares what you look like, no one cares your gender, no one cares what you do outside of uniform. Can you do your job? Are you able to be a soldier, be a 11 bang bang, be a 42 alpha, be whatever you are? Are you able to do your job? That's all that matters. If you can't meet the standard, it doesn't matter about race, it doesn't matter about anything else. So in this particular instance, wanted to do a video, definitely long, about 12 and a half minutes right now, but wanted to do a video just to speak on that topic, because I feel it is my responsibility, especially as a African-American field grade officer. I'd be remiss if I didn't speak to it and try to provide some type of mentorship within my own sphere of influence. Maybe only 10 people watch this video, maybe only 2 people actually watch it all the way through, and maybe there's only 1 person that actually gains something out of it. So if that's the case, then mission success. So have a good evening and continue that momentum.